The masterpiece of mass, the 1993 Mazda RX-7 FD3S. The FD3S generation of the Mazda RX-7 remains one of the most celebrated sports cars to ever emerge from Japan. Released in 1992, with 1993 being the first full model year in North America, it was a purist's machine that balanced delicate aesthetics with high-strung engineering.
The heart, 13B-REW rotary engine. The defining feature of the FD is its sequentially turbocharged 13B-REW engine. This was the first mass-produced twin turbocharger system to come from Japan, designed to provide a smooth, linear power band. Primary turbo provides boost at low RPMs, up to 4,500 RPM, to minimize lag. Secondary turbo kicks in at higher RPMs to provide top-end power. Output? In its 1993 launch spec, it produced roughly 255 horsepower and 217 pounds per torque, though later Japanese versions reached the gentleman's agreement limit of 276 horsepower. Engineering philosophy. Gram strategy. Mazda's engineers were obsessed with weight. They employed a gram strategy, analyzing every single bolt and component to see if weight could be shaved without compromising structural integrity. Weight. It weighed approximately 2,800 pounds or 1,270 kilograms, giving it a power-to-weight ratio that rivaled much more expensive European exotics. Balance. By placing the compact rotary engine behind the front axle, front midship layout, Mazda achieved a perfect 50-50 weight distribution. Suspension. It featured a sophisticated all-aluminium double wishbone suspension at all four corners, providing surgical handling precision. Timeless design. The FD is often cited as a car that refuses to age. Its design, led by Yoichi Sato, eschewed the boxy, aggressive lines of the 1980s in favor of organic curves. Aesthetics: flowing bottle ship silhouette with no sharp edges. Aerodynamics: low drag coefficient with integrated rear wing and front air dams. Cockpit: a driver-centric wraparound dashboard where every control is angled toward the pilot. Legacy and cultural impact. The RX-7 FD has transcended its status as a mere vehicle to become a cultural icon. It is a staple of the JDM, Japanese domestic market scene, immortalized in media like Initial D, driven by Keisuke Takahashi, and the Fast and Furious franchise. Despite the high maintenance requirements of the rotary seals, its unique exhaust note and unrivaled tossability on a canyon road ensure it remains one of the most sought-after collector cars of the 90s. History. The history of the FD3S is a story of a company betting the house on a unique engine technology when the rest of the world was moving toward traditional pistons. Development began in the late 1980s, during the height of the Japanese asset price bubble, a period of unprecedented excess that allowed Mazda engineers to build a no-compromise flagship. The Project 001 Origins. The FD was the result of an internal competition between Mazda's design studios in California and Hiroshima. The goal was to create a pure sports car that could compete globally with the likes of the Porsche 911. Design lead Tom Matano, who also worked on the MX-5 Miata, and Wu Huang-chin shaped the exterior. They moved away from the wedge look of the previous FC generation, opting for a shrink-wrapped body that clung tightly to the chassis. The mission. Every design choice had to serve the car's agility. This resulted in the car being shorter, wider, and lower than its predecessor. The development of the FD3S, internally known as Project 001, was a radical departure from the 1980s trend of making sports cars heavier and more luxurious. Mazda's leadership gave the engineering team a singular, uncompromising mandate: create the world's fastest and best-handling rotary sports car.
The zero-base philosophy. Unlike most sequels, the FD was not an evolution of the previous FC generation. Engineers started from a zero base, meaning every component was questioned. The goal was to return to the lightweight roots of the original 1978 SA22C, while incorporating 1990s supercar technology. The global design competition. To ensure the car had international appeal, Mazda held an internal design war between 3 of its studios. Hiroshima, Japan, focused on technical packaging and heritage. Yokohama, Japan, explored futuristic, avant-garde aesthetics. Irvine, California, MRA, focused on aggressive, organic proportions. The final design was a synthesis of these efforts. Yoichi Sato oversaw the project, but the fluid, shrink-wrapped exterior was heavily influenced by Wu Huangqin and Tom Matano from the California studio. The design was so advanced that the team famously claimed the car's shape was carved by the wind. Lightweight obsession. The Gram strategy. The most legendary aspect of Project 001 was the Gram strategy. Chief Engineer Takaharu Kobayakawa, who had previously led Mazda's 24 Hours of Le Mans winning team, applied racing discipline to the street car. Drilled components. Engineers analyzed suspension arms, pedals, and even bolts, drilling holes in non-structural areas to save milligrams. Material science. They utilized an aluminum hood, aluminum suspension components, and a unique honeycomb-structured trunk floor. The result? Despite being wider and more powerful than the previous model, the FD3S launched at roughly 2,800 pounds, 1,270 kilograms, nearly 200 pounds lighter than its contemporary rival, the Nissan 300ZX twin-turbo turbo. Testing at the Green Hell. The FD was one of the early Japanese cars to be extensively tuned at the Nürburgring Nordschleife. Project 001 prototypes were pushed to their limits in Germany to ensure the suspension could handle high-speed undulations, a requirement if they were to compete with Porsche. We didn't want to build a car that just looked fast. We wanted a car that felt like an extension of the driver's nervous system. Project 001 development notes. The vacuum rat's nest. To solve the lack of low-end torque inherent in a small displacement rotary, Mazda developed a complex sequential twin turbocharger system. The setup: 2 Hitachi HT12 turbos worked in tandem. The first turbo provided boost from 2,000 RPM, while the second remained pre-spooled and joined the party at 4,500 RPM. The complexity. This system was controlled by an intricate web of over 60 vacuum lines, check valves and solenoids, often referred to by tuners as the rat's nest. The transition. The goal was a seamless handoff between turbos, but it required the ECU to perform a delicate pre-spool dance to avoid a sudden jolt of power during the transition. North American launch, 1993. The 1993 launch in North America was the FD's grand entrance onto the world stage, positioning the RX-7 not just as a successor to the FC, but as a legitimate supercar killer. It arrived with a premium price tag and performance figures that put established European marques on notice. The trim strategy. Mazda North America offered 3 distinct flavors of the FD:
ensuring that whether a buyer wanted a grand tourer or a weekend track weapon, there was a specific configuration available. The base model. The purest choice. It lacked the heavy sunroof and extra amenities, making it the lightest version available in the US. It sat on 16-inch 5-spoke squeeze-cast wheels that were incredibly light yet strong.
The Touring Package, designed for the driver who wanted the FD's performance without sacrificing 90s luxury. Bose Acoustic Wave. The most famous feature was the snake tube subwoofer system that wound through the trunk, using a long waveguide to produce deep bass in a small space. Amenities. It included leather seating surfaces, a sunroof, which added weight at the highest point of the car, and fog lights. The R1, 1993, or R2, 1994 to 1995. The R series was the race spec. It deleted the cruise control and sunroof to save weight and added hardware for serious driving. Dual oil coolers, essential for keeping the 13B REW cool during prolonged high RPM use. Base and touring models typically only had one. Heavy-duty suspension. Shocks were tuned by Bilstein for maximum grip, though many reviewers at the time complained the ride was punishingly stiff on public roads. Aerodynamics included a dedicated front lip spoiler and a rear wing. The 4.9-second controversy. When the 1993 RX-7 launched, car and driver famously clocked its 0 to 60 mile time at 4.9 seconds. This was a bombshell. To put it in perspective, the Ferrari 348 TB of the same year was slower. The Acura NSX was marginally slower or equal. The Chevrolet Corvette C4 struggled to keep pace. The FD's combination of 255 horsepower and a low 2,800-pound curb weight gave it a power-to-weight ratio that allowed it to punch far above its weight class.
Pricing and positioning. The MSRP started at approximately $32,500, climbing toward $36,000 for a fully loaded Touring. While this was a bargain compared to a Ferrari, it was a massive jump from the previous generation RX-7. In the early 90s, the US was emerging from a recession, and insurance companies began blacklisting high-performance Japanese cars with astronomical premiums. This economic environment, combined with the car's reputation for being difficult to maintain due to the heat-sensitive vacuum lines, made the North American stay short-lived, concluding just 3 years later in 1995.
The battle against heat. The sequential evolution also revealed the FD's Achilles heel, heat soak. The compact engine bay, combined with 2 turbos and a rotary engine that naturally runs hotter than a piston engine, meant that cooling was a constant struggle. Underhood temperatures. The high temperatures could eventually bake the plastic vacuum lines and wiring harnesses, leading to the reliability myths that still surround the car today. Engineering fixes. Mazda responded during these years with improved ECU mapping and reinforced cooling fans, but the FD remained a car that demanded a disciplined maintenance schedule. Market realities. By 1995, the yen was strengthening against the dollar, and the price of the RX-7 soared toward $37,000. Between the rising costs, strict emissions laws, and a market shift toward SUVs, Mazda made the difficult decision to pull the RX-7 from the North American market. While the evolution stopped for the West in 1995, it was only just beginning for the Japanese domestic market, where the FD would continue to be refined for another 7 years. The Japanese Golden Age, 1996 to 2002.
While sales ceased in North America after 1995 and Europe shortly after due to emissions regulations, development continued aggressively in Japan. The car went through 6 distinct series, or versions. Series 4 and 5, 1996 to 1998, power was bumped to 265 PS. The iconic whale-tail rear wing became more prominent, and the ECU was upgraded to 16-bit for better engine management. Series 6, 1999 to 2002, this was the pinnacle of the FD. Changes included improved cooling, larger radiators, redesigned front bumpers for better airflow, and the interior received a fresh instrument cluster with a white-faced tachometer. While the RX-7 departed the North American market in 1995, its development in Japan entered a high-velocity refinement phase. This period is known as the Golden Age because Mazda was no longer constrained by the compromises of global export markets, allowing them to lean into the FD's true identity as a specialized JDM, Japanese domestic market, weapon.
The Gentleman's Agreement Apex. Throughout the late 90s, Japanese manufacturers adhered to an informal gentleman's agreement to limit advertised horsepower to 276 horsepower, 280 PS, to avoid a high-speed arms race. Underreporting. While Mazda officially claimed 276 horsepower for later models, Series 8, many stock units actually produced closer to 290 to 300 horsepower straight from the factory. Efficiency gains. Instead of just chasing raw numbers, Mazda engineers focused on thermal management and turbo response, upgrading the ECU to 16-bit processing and improving the intercooler efficiency.
Series 4 and 5, Technical Maturity, 1996 to 1998. In 1996, the FD underwent a significant update, often called the Series 4 or Version 4. Power bump. Output rose from 255 horsepower to 265 horsepower. Visual updates. The iconic round pill taillights were introduced, replacing the rectangular 80s-style units. The Type RS. This trim emerged as the sweet spot for enthusiasts, featuring 17-inch wheels, larger brake rotors, and a final drive ratio shortened to 4.30 for better acceleration.
Series 6, The Final Evolution, 1999 to 2002. The final version of the FD, Series 6 or Version 6, is the most sought after by collectors today. It represented the peak of 13B REW engineering. Cooling overhaul. The front bumper was redesigned with much larger air intakes to feed the radiator and oil coolers, a direct response to the heat soak issues of the early cars. Adjustable wing. Special editions celebrating the Rotary. During this era, Mazda released several limited-run models that have become legends in automotive history. Mazda RX-7 Type RZ. Focus, weight reduction. Key features, Recaro carbon Kevlar seats, custom gunmetal BBS wheels, and no rear seats. Mazda RX-7 Type R Bathurst Rate. Focus, racing heritage. Key features commemorated the RX-7's dominance at the Bathurst 12-hour race, featured adjustable dampers. Mazda RX-7 RS-R. Focus, 30th anniversary. A limited run of 500 cars celebrating 30 years of the Mazda Rotary engine. Transition to icon status. By the turn of the millennium, the RX-7 had transitioned from a new car to a cultural titan. It was during these years that the FD became the face of the tuning world through companies like RE Amamiya and Feed, and its digital legacy was cemented in games like Gran Turismo and Initial D.
While the golden age ended in 2002 due to tightening emission standards, the 13B struggled with the new LEV requirements. The refinements made during this 1996 to 2002 window ensured that the FD would remain a benchmark for handling and design for decades to come.
The grand finale, Spirit R. In 2002, Mazda announced the end of the RX-7. To celebrate its decade-long run, they produced 1,500 units of the Spirit R. This final edition combined all the best parts from previous special models. Type A, a two-seater with lightweight Recaro carbon Kevlar bucket seats and a 5-speed manual. Type B, a 2+2 configuration with a manual transmission. Type C, a 2+2 with a 4-speed automatic. By 2002, the sun was setting on the golden era of 1990s Japanese sports cars. Tightening emissions regulations and a global shift in consumer tastes meant the high-strung 13B REW was living on borrowed time. To give the FD3S the send-off it deserved, Mazda produced the Spirit R, the ultimate expression of the RX-7. Limited to just 1,500 units, the Spirit R was a best-of compilation, featuring every performance enhancement Mazda had developed over the previous decade.
The three flavors of Spirit R. Mazda didn't just release one version, they categorized the Spirit R into three distinct types to suit different enthusiasts. The purist's weapon. This is the most famous and collectible version. It was a strict two-seater designed for maximum performance. Seating features iconic red Recaro carbon Kevlar lightweight bucket seats. Brakes, large cross-drilled rotors clamped by red calipers. Transmission, 5-speed manual only. Weight, the lightest of the Spirit R lineup, stripping away every unnecessary gram. Type B, the practical performer. For those who wanted the Spirit R performance but needed the utility of the Japanese 2+2 layout. Seating, configured as a 4-seater 2+2 with red leather upholstery. Hardware shared the same engine and suspension upgrades as the Type A, but with a slightly higher curb weight due to the rear seats and different interior materials. Type C, the comfortable cruiser. The rarest of the bunch, only about 40 were made, designed for those who wanted the Spirit R aesthetic with a more relaxed driving experience. Transmission, equipped with a 4-speed automatic. Seating, 2+2 layout with red leather seats. Exclusive Spirit R features. Regardless of the type, all Spirit R models received special treatment that distinguished them from a standard Series 8 FD. BBS wheels. 17-inch lightweight forged aluminum wheels manufactured by BBS, finished in a unique gunmetal gray. The engine. The 13B REW was at its peak, officially rated at 276 horsepower or 280 PS, with high-flow turbochargers and improved cooling. Interior details. Soft-touch interior panels, a leather-wrapped Nardi steering wheel, and a special Spirit R plaque on the center console. Paint. While available in several colors, the titanium gray metallic paint is the signature color most associated with this final run. The end of an era. The final Spirit R rolled off the assembly line on August 26, 2002. When it finished its run, it wasn't just the end of the RX-7. It was the end of the sequential twin-turbo rotary engine. While the R8 would follow with the naturally aspirated Renesis engine, it lacked the raw turbocharged punch and the timeless low-slung silhouette of the FD. Today, the Spirit R, particularly the Type A, is one of the most expensive and sought-after JDM cars in the world, frequently fetching 6 figures at auction as the definitive final boss of the rotary world. Historical significance. The FD3S was the last mass-produced twin-turbo rotary car. When the final Spirit R rolled off the assembly line in August 2002, it marked an era for the sequential rotary setup. Its history is defined by a refusal to follow trends, prioritizing the purity of the driving experience over mass-market appeal, a philosophy that has made it a legendary centerpiece of the 1990s Japanese performance boom. The historical significance of the FD3S Mazda RX-7 extends far beyond its specs. It represents a rare moment in automotive history where a manufacturer prioritized artistic and mechanical purity over mass-market logic, creating a car that remains a benchmark for design and engineering decades later. The zenith of the rotary engine. The FD3S is the definitive high-water mark for the Wankel rotary engine. While Mazda used the rotary in everything from buses to trucks in the 70s, the FD proved the engine could power a world-class supercar. The Sequential first. It was the first mass-produced car to successfully utilize a sequential twin-turbocharged system, a technology later adopted by legendary cars like the Toyota Supra and Porsche 959. A technical dead end. Because the rotary engine eventually struggled to meet modern global emissions and fuel economy standards, the FD remains a frozen-in-time masterpiece, the most sophisticated turbocharged rotary that will likely ever be mass-produced.
Design that defies time. Most cars from the early 1990s look dated today, but the FD3S is frequently cited by modern car designers as one of the most beautiful silhouettes ever created. Organic minimalism. By avoiding the folded paper or wedge trends of the 80s, Mazda created a shape that looks modern even in 2026. Form follows function. The car's low hood line was only possible because of the compact nature of the rotary engine, meaning its beauty is a direct result of its unique engineering.
A cultural titan. The RX-7 FD didn't just win races, it won the culture war through digital and traditional media. The JDM boom. It was a central figure in the 1990s Japanese performance car era, alongside the Skyline GTR and the NSX. Media icon. Through its starring roles in Initial D and the Fast and Furious franchise, the FD became a symbol of the tuner movement, inspiring an entire generation of automotive enthusiasts and digital creators.
Handling as a philosophy. While rivals like the Nissan 300ZX and Mitsubishi 3000 GT focused on high-tech features, four-wheel steering, active aero, the RX-7 focused on weight and balance. The pure driver's car. Its legacy is defined by the Gram strategy. It proved that a car didn't need 500 horsepower to be a supercar killer. It just needed to be light and perfectly balanced. The extension of the driver. The FD remains one of the few cars that journalists still describe as feeling like an extension of the driver's nervous system, a standard that modern, heavier, more electronic cars struggle to meet.
Transition to icon status.
By the turn of the millennium, the RX-7 had transitioned from a new car to a cultural titan. It was during these years that the FD became the face of the tuning world through companies like RE Amemiya and Feed, and its digital legacy was cemented in games like Gran Turismo and Initial D. While the golden age ended in 2002 due to tightening emission standards, the 13B struggled with the new LEV requirements. The refinements made during this 1996-2002 window ensured that the FD would remain a benchmark for handling and design for decades to come.